Well, the 21-0 dream died really quickly. Today really sucked. 2-5 on the day. The lock doesn't come through. A bunch of just really shitty games, man. Ball State, just a completely pathetic first half. They didn't score their first bucket until like 7 minutes in. They were down, I don't know, like 20 points at half or something. And they came all the way back, scored more than Miami in the second half, but only managed to get to within 13. Pretty tough to get out of a huge hole like that when you put yourselves in such a bad spot. But I think if that game had like 5 more minutes, we end up covering. But they just started to figure out the groove way too late. Bradley, I wouldn't say was sweat-free. It's kind of back and forth for most of the game, but Bradley finally pulled away in the end. Bowling Green, very close game. They end up losing this game by 1. They basically didn't score a point in the last like 7 minutes. They had like 61 for like 7 minutes straight, and Western Michigan just slowly built their lead up until Bowling Green just couldn't come back. And then Western Michigan makes one free throw at the end of the game, which kills our chance at an overtime cover. It is what it is. Ohio game, I guess Toledo was due for a good game eventually, but man, they shot like 60% from the field in this game. They genuinely could not miss a singular shot. I think they were shooting at a 75% clip after the first half. Ohio, I guess, just so bad, either really bad defensively or just, I don't know. They played a decent game. They put up 82 points. That would have easily shit on Toledo and like any of the games they've been playing lately. But Toledo just played way too well. They shot lights out. Not much you can do. VMI, pretty sweat-free. South Dakota State. I'm not sure if anyone was following that game. They ended up losing this game by 16, thanks to Eagle Staff on North Dakota that drops 51 points. They shot 75% from the free throw line, 13 of 32 from 3. Now, even with North Dakota scoring 85, South Dakota State could have easily covered this number, but they shot 10% from 3. They shot 3 for 29 from 3. They missed 9 free throws compared to North Dakota missing 6. But yeah, South Dakota State, they dominated. I don't know. I don't really know what to say this game. Just someone on the other team got hot, completely crushed them in the second half. Not much else to say. They lost the game by 16 as 8.5-point favorites, especially since they were winning by like 20 for a good chunk of that early game. But you can't make threes at home against a really bad three-point defense. I don't know what to tell you. That's just, you don't deserve to win the game, unfortunately. And Boise State looked good at times, but they ended up giving like a 24-7 run to end the game. Ended up losing by 10. Just imploded, couldn't make a basket, couldn't defend. They played a decent game too. They shot really well from the free throw line, but Colorado State showed up. They shot basically 50% from 3. They only missed 1 free throw, shooting 96% from the free throw line. Colorado State just played a full game. Obviously, I knew they would hit more threes in that game, but for some reason, Boise shot fucking 29 threes in that game, compared to Colorado State only shooting 17, and Boise shot fewer threes. I don't know what the coaching game plan was there. I genuinely think they should just kept playing, running to the basket. They're not a three-point shooting team in the first place, so I don't know. I just didn't get the memo that they'd be shooting so many threes when they don't shoot the threes well and they dominate the paint. I don't know what to say. 2-5. Some of those games could have went either way, but it is what it is. The streak was due to end, but it was a little abrupt. But it is what it is. I have 9 games that I like for the early slate. This is the 12 p.m. to 4:30 slate. I probably will have some more bets for the other games, typically a bit more selective, because I do really bad at night games for some reason on these Saturday slates. But I'll probably have 3 or 4 more games up in the pinned comment of this video. Anyways, let's get into the 9 games that I like for tomorrow and my explanation as to why. All right, that brings us to game number 1. We got Iowa State versus Kansas State. Now, obviously, Iowa State on paper is the significantly more talented team, but Kansas State has been one of the grittier teams in college basketball this year, especially in the Big 12. They play hard the entire game, and the fact that they already beat Iowa State by like 20 points last time they played some of you obviously you can account for Iowa State, playing poorly. Maybe Kansas State was playing overly well, but a lot of the reason why I do believe they play well against them is because I think they match up quite well. If you look at how Kansas State likes to score, they like to score in the paint. They don't really shoot a lot of threes and near basket shots. They shoot primarily paint shots. That's one thing that Iowa State fails to defend. They're a really elite mid-range mid-range defense. They're a pretty solid 3-point defense, but they fall outside of the top 150 in defending the paint. They also give up a fair amount of offensive boards, and they also turn the ball over a fair amount. And those are basically the three ways that Kansas State scores. That's kind of what their team is built around. Kind of very similar-esque to St. John's. Obviously not as talented, but not that elite of an offense, but really good at defensive offense and decent defense. On the other side, Iowa State, how do they like to score? They like to get offensive boards. They're probably going to find some success here, but they more specifically rely on getting points off steals. And Kansas State is a team that does not turn the ball over. They're ranked 8th in the amount of turnovers they give up per game. They only give up roughly 8 points on average from steals, which is insane. Iowa State also typically likes to shoot a decent amount of threes. What does Kansas State defend well? They're a really good 3-point defense. They're also a very good mid-range defense. So Iowa State, I think, is going to find some success in the paint and on second chance opportunities. But again, Kansas State plays solid defense. They don't really foul that much. So if Iowa State can't necessarily get to the offensive board, I kind of like getting the points here with Kansas State. Obviously, these two teams have already played. You could argue that this is a revenge spot here for Iowa State, wanting to end their season off on a high note before the conference tournament. But they just got completely crushed by BYU. Yes, they had a really good game against Arizona, but before that, they lost to Oklahoma State, Houston. They haven't truly impressed me. Obviously, they're healthy now, and you could argue that this is their last game, and they want to prove that they're still, a top 5 team in college basketball. But Kansas State plays decently well at home. Iowa State definitely does not play nearly as well on the road. Look at the last 10 ratings for these two teams. They're really not that far apart. And Kansas State does show up the most against top 50 teams. That's kind of where they play their best ball. And Iowa State doesn't necessarily play that well against teams outside of the top 50. They definitely play down to their competition. And I do like that for this spot for Kansas State. Obviously, this can be a true travel spot for Iowa State. Kansas State is going to have 1 day fewer rest. They're coming off 2 solid wins over Colorado and Cincinnati. They kept it pretty close in most of their recent losses. They're also a team that beat Arizona. They beat Kansas. They beat Iowa State by 19. They beat West Virginia. They beat Cincinnati twice. They're a team with some solid wins under the belt. And to get them in their senior game at home, wanting to finish off the season on a high note after a really impressive season, I think they're going to be playing harder here than Iowa State, who's going to be a little tired. It's not a significant travel spot, but 200 miles isn't necessarily nothing. And last time they've had to travel pretty far is when they got crushed by Kansas, got crushed by Oklahoma State. And Kansas State has won 3 of their last 4 at home, getting 6.5 points with a team that already beat them by 19. So how much revenge spot can you give? I don't see that much. Obviously, Iowa State is fully healthy, and they weren't in that last matchup, but I still think Kansas State can keep this game close. If not, has a chance to win this game outright. So game number 1 can be Kansas State. All right, now game number 2, we have Ohio State versus Indiana. Now, you can say what you want, but this Indiana team, obviously they're not nearly as talented as this Ohio State team. But this is going to be my lock of the day. I really love this spot for Indiana. I think they want to end on a high note. On paper, obviously they're not necessarily the better team, but I do think they match up decently well here. They have a lot more momentum. They're a significantly more consistent team, and especially with Ohio State on the road, they're very inconsistent. And they play really well at home. And the one thing that Ohio State does, or Indiana does extremely well, is they're one of the best teams on the offensive glass. They get, on average, 18 offensive boards a game, and they convert those offensive boards really, really well. 11th best in college basketball. And this Ohio State team really sucks on their own board. They don't turn the ball over, which is great, but they suck on the boards. They're ranked 253rd in second chance opportunities percentage. So if Indiana can get those offensive boards, they're going to find success. Indiana's also going to get to the line a ton against an Ohio State team that fouls a ton. Indiana shoots most of their shots in the paint. They're going to have a pretty significant advantage there against the Ohio State team that really only defends the 3 well. A shot that Indiana doesn't really build their offense around. I think it's a phenomenal matchup for Indiana. And if you look at the other side, Ohio State, they shoot a ton of mid-range, and they also rely on the offensive boards a lot for points. And this is an Indiana team that defends their boards really well, top 16 college basketball. They also don't turn the ball over that much. Ohio State might find some success in the near basket, but Indiana also defends the three really well. They don't foul. It's hard for me to find anything really that leans me towards Iowa State in this pretty short line. You could probably just take the money line here to be safe, but yeah, we get Ohio State in a true road spot. They just played a weird schedule where they were on the road, went home, beat Nebraska, and they gave up 114 points against the Nebraska team at home. I think Indiana has an equal, if not better, offense than Nebraska. And now they're going to be traveling here 200 miles where they lost 2 of their last 4. Indiana's won their last 2 home games against Penn State, Purdue, Washington. They just had a tough loss against Oregon coming back home to finish off their season. I think they're going to show up big time for this game. I think Ohio State is a talented team, but Indiana's already beaten them once on the road. I think they beat them again here at home, and they cover this number. So, it'll be Indiana -2 as my favorite game of the day. All right, that brings us to game number 3, TCU at Colorado. Now, TCU obviously the more talented Big 12 team, but Colorado really has not been that impressive at all in the Big 12. But I really do think they play a really, really solid game at home, and TCU, not necessarily a very good team on the road. And obviously on paper, in a vacuum, TCU is the way better team. But we're getting Colorado in their final game at home, and they don't have necessarily a terrible matchup here. If you look at how Colorado likes to score, they shoot mostly in the paint, 43% of their shots in the paint. That's basically where TCU defends the worst, ranked 185th. They'll find some success on the offensive glass. TCU doesn't give up that many offensive boards, but I still think they're going to find some success there, just because they are at home. They'll find some success from the mid-range. They'll get to the line a little bit. And on the other side, TCU, they're a team that heavily relies on offensive boards and steals. And they're going to find some success, but I think Colorado won't turn the ball over nearly as much at home. Colorado's really good on the offense, on their own glass. So I think TCU's going to struggle there. And defensively, TCU shoots a lot of in near basket shots. Over 42% of their shots from in the paint, and Colorado top 10 defense. So in the paint. So TCU, yeah, they might get to the free throw line, but they're a terrible free throw shooting team. Ranked 347th in college basketball. I'd almost rather them, to be honest, get free throws instead of shooting, because I think they have a higher chance of making points if they're not getting fouled, or that if they are getting to the line. So I think Colorado here, we're getting them at home. TCU is going to be a true travel spot here, traveling over 600 miles. They lost 3 of their last 4 when they've traveled that far. Colorado, they won 2 of their last 4 at home. Played it pretty competitive against Houston and Kansas. 2 teams way better than TCU is. TCU has won their head-to-head matchup this year, winning by 11. But I think Colorado is one of those teams, kind of like South Carolina, where the home advantage is pretty significant here. I think they're going to end this year on a high note, especially after coming home after 2 road losses. TCU head on the road in their final game. I think they're just looking forward to the conference tournament. They're coming off a tough, aggressive, very physical game against Baylor. I think they're going to be tired for this one. And I think Colorado shows up. So give me Colorado here at home, -2.5. All right, heading into game number 4. I'm really not even going to dig into this game very much. This is strictly a spot. Utah State, one of the best offenses in college basketball. Air Force, one of the worst defenses in college basketball. We're going to Utah State at home in their final game in college basketball against one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the division. I think Utah State just completely drills them. I want to end on a high note. They just had a really, really rough road trip where they dropped 2 games against some pretty decent teams. They lost to Colorado State and Boise State on the road, 2 teams that play really well at home. But before that, they had 8-point win over San Diego State at home. They beat San Jose State by 50, basically 48 points. This is a team when at home completely drills bad teams. They beat Nevada by 21. They beat honestly, they haven't really played that many bad teams at home. They beat Utah Tech by 30, South Florida by 21. Wyoming by 3. not impressive by any means, but Wyoming's a decent defensive team. They Montana by 12, a bunch of bums by like 30, 60 against Alcorn. This is a Utah State that is good. They're pissed off. They've never lost more than 2 games in a row this season. They never lost more than 1 game in a row this season. Now they're coming off 2 losses on the road. I think they're going to completely crush Air Force, and they're going to win this game by like 40 points. That's basically it. There's nothing that Air Force does well that Utah State doesn't do 10 times better. All right, heading on to game number 5, we have Providence versus Xavier. I think Xavier is proving a case for themselves for this NCAA tournament. I think they're on a 6-win streak. They are playing incredibly well. Providence, writing off the season, they lost their number 1 guy. Now they're heading on the road for their last game. They've given up on this coach. The coach has given up on them. And Xavier, they're just a way better team, basically in every capacity. If these two teams were playing well, I might lean towards Providence at this number because it is a decent matchup. Because this Providence team does shoot threes and second chance opportunities, and those are 2 things that Xavier's not that great at. But Xavier's got all the momentum. They're the more consistent team. They're the better team. They play really good at home. Providence plays bad on the road. I think Xavier wants to make this Final Four tournament, and nothing's going to stop them. They're going to play to the best of their ability. They're a team that's due for positive progression, despite how good they are. We're getting them at home against, again, as I said, a Providence team that I don't even know if they're going to be mentally there for this game. I think they're already checked out. Xavier at home, top 35 team. Providence on the road, basically outside of the top 100. Their last 5 games, Xavier's been playing like a top 15 team. Providence basically a top 200 team. The Xavier team is just absolutely insane lately, and they love to beat these mid-major schools like Providence. It's the team that they perform the best against. So, I just think Xavier is just a smash spot for Xavier. It's basically my other lock if I had one. I might even take Xavier first half -6. They're one of the better first half teams, and Providence is a really slow starter. Getting Providence here in a true road spot. They just drop 2 games to UConn and DePaul. Now they're traveling 700 miles to play 1 game. They're 3-1 or 1-3 in their last games, having to travel over 500 miles. Xavier is 4-0 in the last 4 games at home, including a 22-point win over Creighton, a 13-point win over Butler, a 17-point win over DePaul, 5-point win over Georgetown. They are a really good home team, and they are rolling right now. And Providence have lost 8 of their last 9. They've given up on the season. So give me Xavier. It's not even in the graphic, but this is going to be another lock. I'm going to do a double lock here. I like Xavier and Indiana as my 2 locks of the day for the early games. All right, for the sake of not making these videos too long, because I could yap about these games for way too long, I like Marquette in this spot. I think this is a St. John's team that, not very good offensively. I think they're going to struggle here to find points against a Marquette team that is pretty decent at not turning the ball over and limiting offensive boards. Obviously, St. John's has been one of the best road teams in college basketball, but I think Marquette may have a chance here to have their number. Again, St. John's offense is not good. It is a bad offense. They're basically not even a top 100 offense. The only thing they do well is getting points off steals and getting points on offensive glass. Marquette, top 50 in both of those categories defensively. They're a very, very well-built defense. They're top 50 in every single defensive category, except for limiting free throws. On the other side, St. John's, decent defensive team, but Marquette's going to find some points off turnovers. They're going to get a lot more points off the offensive glass. I don't know. I think Marquette's going to show up big time for this last game at home. You could argue that maybe this is a spot for St. John's to kind of finish off their amazing season, but they're going to make the tournament. I think they are more focused on that than this game. If you look at the last 5, these teams have been playing pretty much equally. Marquette's one of the best teams at playing top 25 teams. St. John's not. They actually play top 25 teams at one of their worst categories, other than playing like bottom feeder teams that they don't really try against. We're getting Marquette off a loss coming home against UConn. You could argue they're going to be a bit more tired here because St. John's hasn't played since the first, but they're going to be in a true road game after an awkward schedule. They played away, home, away, home, away, home. Now they're going on the road again, traveling 700 miles. I think this is just a spot where Marquette can win. Second game, I got Cornell. This is strictly a model game. I have Cornell winning this game by 18 points. The Ivy League has been a fucking shit show. I don't really know, but I think Cornell has the offense to blow Columbia out of the water. I think they have a couple seniors. They're going to have senior night here. I think they're going to demolish a really, really bad Columbia team. Yeah, there's really not much to it. I think they're just a way more talented team, both offensively and defensively. LaSalle, I think this St. Joe's team's getting a little bit too much love lately. They've been good, don't get me wrong, but I think this is a LaSalle team that can find some success here. St. John's, they're only going to really score if they score. They're not really a good team getting to the line. They don't really get offensive boards. They don't really get points off steals. So if their shots aren't falling, I think LaSalle can keep this game close, just get from forcing turnovers and playing in the paint. So don't absolutely love the spot, but LaSalle plays really well at home, and they're due for a ton of regression. So I think they keep this game into single digits, but they definitely lose. But I think it's a single-digit loss in their final game of the year. And to top us off, we have Tennessee. This Tennessee team, you could argue that South Carolina wants to finish off this season on a high note. They've been kind of I'm not going to say a dark horse, but they've been a pretty good team, kind of secretly good in the SEC. But we're getting Tennessee off a loss. They're going to be at home, where they play really well. I think they're going to really want to show up for this game in front of their home crowd after a pretty pathetic last couple of games. Tennessee, obviously not that good of an offense, but they're going to find success here, especially from three and in the paint against a South Carolina team that doesn't really defend that well. But it's more going to be on the other side. I don't really see how South Carolina is going to have any success here if Tennessee is playing defensively. How does South Carolina like to score? They like to shoot in the paint. Tennessee ranked number 1 in paint defense. How else do they like to score? They like to shoot threes. Tennessee ranked number 1 in three-point defense. How else do they like to score? Offensive boards. Tennessee ranked number 1 in offensive boards. They like to get some points off steals. Not really. They just don't get points off steals. I'm concerned about Tennessee turning the ball over. I think this is going to be a slow, meticulous win here from Tennessee. Their threes are going to start falling early. They had a really bad game. Yeah, this is just typically what I look at. These are the 9 games that I like. Not really that many underdogs. I think I've really only bet 2 of them. But 2 of them are pretty much pick'ems between Indiana and Colorado. And then I've got obviously LaSalle and Kansas State as the 2 underdogs. But those are 9 games I like. Hopefully you agree with some of them. Definitely sucks that we got a big influx of people on a really shitty day after a 14-0 run, but it's the ebbs and flows of college basketball. It's such a high variance sport. You never know what you're going to get. Just look at that San Diego State team. Really good 3-point shooting team against a terrible 3-point defense. Shoots 3 for 29, and a really bad 3-point shooting team against a really good 3-point defense shoots 40%, and one guy drops fucking 51 points. So you don't know what you're gonna get. Maybe that was a bad pick. Maybe it was variance. Who knows? But I do like these games today. So I will have probably 3 to 5 more picks in the pinned comment for the games from 5 p.m. to midnight. So keep an eye out for those and check the Discord if you want to get them right when I post them. So thank you so much for watching. Appreciate everyone and glad to have you all on board. Let's make some money today.